for the question and commendation, and we would like to invite our moderators
to the stage.
To the stage. Take a seat. So from now, there will be an open discussion, and I'd like to ask if there's any questions from the audience.
First, let me thank all, TW Wong from Hong Kong. First, let me thank all the speakers for their very good presentations. I would like to address two questions to my Taiwan colleagues. First, of course, is the very amazing efficiency they can achieve. Now, from Dr. Wang's presentation, the productivity of the doctor is about 2 to 3 per hour, which is like very normal to me, because you divide 20 to 30 by 12 hours. So 2 to 3 is like reasonable numbers. And then your efficiency is so high, you are seeing patients like within half an hour, almost all categories. So that's the question I'd like to address to our colleagues. How do you achieve this amazing result? And please don't let our administrator know about this. Okay? The second question I'd like to ask is that I read from time to time that there's a big problem in Taiwan in terms of recruiting people in the hospital system because of this workloading and poor payment, etc. And there's a burnout issue. And burnout issue actually is also an important issue all through emergency medicine because of the stress and irregular hours and so on. I'd like also to ask you about this issue. Is burnout among emergency physicians an issue in Taiwan, and how do you deal with that? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Wong, for your questions. For the first question, I would just respond first, and then I can ask my Taiwan colleagues if they want to add some more answers for that. For the traditionally, but if we look at the number for the patient load, in Hong Kong you got about 2.2 million emergency visits per year, but you only have 22 hospitals. So the patient load is about 120,000 per year per hospital. I think it's 4 times more than in Taiwan, because we got about, according to Dr. Wang's statistics, is about 12 million. This data is somehow varied, because from the national health is about 7 to 8 million. So the 12 million is from the hospital.
It is times. It is over 12 millions of times. So
maybe it's 12 million, but we have about 190 hospitals have emergency department in Taiwan. So divided to the whole population, then about 60 to 70,000 per year. So it's for the capacity and the distribution of hospital, maybe the difference. And normally, if you go to Taiwan, so Dr. Zhou have shown a slide that show that Taiwan have a good quality and good affordability for the patients. So for the bright positive point for our emergency doctors, actually, if our patient no need to wait for so long, why not? I mean, if the patient, even if we cannot see them within hours, but if you can see them within minutes, there will be no patient queue over there, then maybe the pressure is not so high. But another way is that our staff was quick. I'm not sure they will be very efficient, but I would say it's very good for them to treat all patients without any complaints. So I think Dr. Wang will never get a complaint from his patients because he sees patients quickly and very politely. Okay, so maybe it's the basic structure for the hospital development in Taiwan. So I would say this waiting times in Taiwan is, if we show up in many countries, every country will say, wow, how can you do it? We don't know, we just do it. Because it's difficult to answer, but there is a long queue during the festival days or like Chinese New Year. There is always a long queue for the category 4 and 5. Yeah. So I would say maybe the structure and the staff and the equipment or all facilities make the difference. And for the for the first question, maybe if any from our Taiwan colleagues want to reply to Dr. Wang's question, or maybe Dr. Wang, you can respond. How can you see so many patients in so short time?
Usually in our hospital, if they are maybe category 4 or 5 patient, we just do an intramuscular injection, and we will put out an order that he is MBD or better within 30 minutes. So I think I either don't know why.
Actually, we have a fast track. We use the ED triage we divided. So the level 1 and 2 we put in the critical area, and we have a fast track. Then in the fast track we equip with also enough doctor for that. So, and the patient, if they don't like to wait in this hospital, actually they can easily go to other hospitals. Actually, especially in Taipei, there are quite a lot of medical centers and regional hospitals in the Taipei area. So I think for the category 4 and 5, if they don't want to wait, they might move to other hospitals that can be more easily accessed.
I would like to also address some question. I'm from the National Taiwan University Hospital, and I think Dr. Huang points out the point is that the patient-doctor ratio. We have about 300 visits per day, and we have 6 visiting staff in the day shift and 4 visiting staff in the night shift. And also we have residents about the same amount, so we can digest all the Cat 3 to Cat 5 patients quickly.
And I would like to address the same issue why doctors in Taiwan may see more patients in Hong Kong, because most patients from Taiwan, they care on efficiency a lot more than privacy. Sometimes when like in a very crowded status, I would walk just direct to the corridor, take the history and direct the order and the patients don't care. They just want the injection and he wants to go. I have toothache, give me the injection now. So I just go by, so you have toothache, we don't have dental care, I can only give you the shot. Fine. So I go to the station, order the drug, the patient may be discharged within 5 minutes. So like these minors, patients, the patients don't care, they don't need a private room, they don't need a curtain, just get what I need. So some patients, like category 4 or 5, maybe like an experienced doctor, they don't need much less, they just need a history, it can be done very fast.
Well, okay, for the first question, I think we can have further discussion. For the burnout issue, I think for emergency physician, if you see a lot of patients per time or you have very long shift, however you strong, you always feel burnout, especially when you met with the disaster. About 3 days or 4 days, I think we have a train accident. So our emergency colleagues in the Iran, actually they call for the disaster response. So actually in that time they all feel very exhausted. But I think the hospital also provide enough manpower for the disaster response. So I think for the burnout issue, currently in my opinion, is that one, is your emergency department safe enough to protect your staff? If it is safe, actually the burnout phenomenon will not be so obvious because you are protected and we have enough staff manpower to replace whenever you need help or whatever. So the safe environment is the most important. And the other thing is the area of the emergency, because if you are crowded, everyone will have not enough space, then you'll feel pressure. So in Linko, I think 4 or 5 years ago, before we do our renovation, we have a very small emergency department. So at that time, people working there always feel like working in the hell. Actually, some of the Hong Kong emergency colleagues go there, they say they never experience hell until they go to our department. So based on the suggestion, we extended our area. Now we have at least a half big size more than before. So now our fast track area, our doctors work, they have a very comfortable environment compared to before. So I think now they working in the emergency department, they will feel more secure and not so pressure. But however, if you are not staff, the staff is not enough, you always feel pressure. So for emergency physician, the most important thing is the flexibility. I personally think if you got some flexibility, you can arrange your own schedule, and you are not always called back because there's shortage of manpower. Then I think the burnout issue will be more calmed down. I think some other people want to respond. Dr. Lee, I think is the most not burnt out.
Always energetic.
Always energetic. I think I can ask him why. You will see my hair color and his hair color. I think he can respond some about the burnout issue.
Okay, actually for me, I think practicing emergency medicine is quite interesting. Emergency medicine, okay, maybe one professor from the United States said that in emergency medicine is the most interesting 15 minutes of every disease or every specialty. So you can enjoy very interesting for your every patient, every moment. So I think practicing is very interesting. That's the first one. And about the second one is that when I walk into the emergency department, I think that almost maybe your patient today is their worst day in their life. Yeah. So, but maybe it's just only a usual work day, or you enjoy your exciting 15 minutes. So when I walk into an ED, I think I'm maybe the most lucky guy in the world. So I think, I know someone is suffering, but I'm enjoying my exciting work. So I feel very lucky in my every shift. And the last one is that always encourage my colleagues. I think we have very smart, professional colleagues, and I can work with them and enjoy the conference, international conference with them. And there is some emergency physicians in other departments, in other territory, or other country, they are still suffering the same reasons. So I think it's quite relieve this kind of fatigue or some negative emotion.
Actually, for emergency physician, every day you see the patient is different from the yesterday. So every day we will be warmed up with all kind of surprise, and you will be happy from that. You will be surprised every day.
I do have something to share. Actually, I think now the world is a little bit more complex than before. In the past, when we trained to be a doctor, we just think that we're going to be specialists, and then we became a consultant. But I think for myself, actually, I did walk out of the emergency medicine when I finished my training. And sometimes it's because of a lot of different reasons. For example, you may be having burnout, or you're having some changes in your life. Maybe you get pregnant or you have baby. But I think I echo with what Dr. Zhang Weilen said today in the plenary session, that actually some of the services are demand, and they drive the need in emergency medicine. For example, after I left my job in the public hospital, I never think that I'll do emergency medicine again, because at the time there was no private market. But when I work in the in the private hospital, there are a lot of different things like resuscitation, quality of care, management of emergency, that there is really a need. I think very importantly, first of all, especially for trainees and the young fellow, is that you need to have a very good learning in your clinical skill and your thinking. Because the training in emergency medicine actually helped me to think and solve problems. This is the first thing. The second thing is, I think because emergency medicine has a lot of teamwork, and you work with people and people know that whether you're taking advantage of them or not. So try to be nice and try to give a bit more. And in my personal experience, actually I get a lot of job referrals. Actually most of my job are referred by people. And if they think that you're a proficient emergency physician and you do a good job and you're dependable, you can help them solve problems, they will refer job to you. And I think most importantly, the world is now actually a very open world. For example, we may not be just working in Hong Kong, maybe in the future we may be moving to Taiwan to work, or we will be working in some other country, WHO, or some other things that we can contribute. And recently, I also met one of the doctors in Singapore, who is also an emergency physician. He actually opened his own ambulance service and doing escort around the world, and sometimes come to Hong Kong. I think some of the things that we need to think out of the box, and as just like my department, he also mentioned that initially his working hours very long and is losing money. But now he got a turnover in his company about 15 million per year, which is actually quite good. And I think we are not talking about just money, but I think if you really get burnout, talk to the people, maybe walk out of the situation, and try to see what your skill can bring you. The world is very big, you can do many different kind of things, but I think we shouldn't waste our training in emergency medicine. And also I think it's a very interesting and a very broad spectrum specialty that we are in.
Thank you for the very informative of Taiwan. And of course, I'm very envious with the efficiency of your hospitals. Less than 15 minutes is really out of blow my mind. But I would like to know, a big part of the stress in emergency medicine is the liability. In Hong Kong, the culture now is blaming. So a lot of medical legal issues, and it's very depressing. So is this a situation in Taiwan? Do you face that liability, complaints to the medical council, So it creates a lot of extra work because everyone is defensive, and of course it's very demoralizing. That's the first thing for global. How about the workplace violence? I imagine that if your waiting time is less than 15 minutes, there won't be any workplace violence in the hospital.
For the first question about the liability, actually in Taiwan we are quite different. Our patients always use criminal law to sue us instead of the common laws. I think when they accuse, they always go to the prosecutor or whatever, and then they sue in a criminal law. So we have to attend the court. I think in this part, I think Hong Kong doctors is more fortunate and more lucky for them. And if you see the statistics, I think the Taiwan doctors was the most accused of the criminal law compared to most countries. So actually we are accustomed to that. So we are all very friendly to our patients, and we talk a lot, we communicate, and then also we also try to cooperate with the Hong Kong and the MPS, the Medical Protection Society, so that to reduce the criminal law cases in Taiwan. So we try to use a kind of mediation to some third parties in order to reduce the tension. For the workplace violence, I think the workplace violence happen all over the world. I think mostly two kinds of people. I think is the alcoholic, the drunken patient. They are always violent to our staff, no matter how bad, how good you treat them. So we need to be cautious when treating these patients. The other one is I think the mental disorder patient. So I think when we talk about the violence for this kind of the patients, I think most countries will face the similar kind of violence. And actually, even our waiting time is 15 minutes all over the country, but patients still yell at you when they are waiting for more than 10 minutes. So I think patients in Hong Kong are very polite. So you got better, a lot of more good patients than we have. So I think this is a difference. Actually, I talked to Farah, if the Hong Kong medical the insurance policy allow your patients to go to Taiwan to receive treatment in emergency department, for the waiting time they can travel by a plane, go there, receive the treatment, go back, already complete the treatment, but maybe still need to be wait in Hong Kong. So maybe you can encourage them to decrease the burden.
So thank you again for the questions, and thank you again for the effort of today's speakers. So right now we would like to present some souvenir to our speakers first. Would you mind?